Vicki. Wow, I was going to tell you how excited I was to be in Colorado and be with you, but I just have to say, I have never been introduced for any talk with the word sexy in it. This is starting off really well for me. If somebody could tell my wife that, I would greatly appreciate it. Y'all, I am very excited to be here. Thank you for the gorgeous weather. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. It's already getting hot, so to come out here, it's already been a great time. And I know I got to come last year in June. I think what's different, I get to go to a lot of events. When I walk in, there is just a community feel. Whether you're here for the first time or you're coming back, it is unique. Y'all have something very unique here. And I appreciate getting to be a part of that. Today we are going to talk about driving elite performance. So this is a blueprint for clarity, accountability, and leadership. And I'm just going to give a disclaimer. When I talk, I like to be really real. I like to use a lot of examples. I like to use sports. But y'all, I'm going to ask that some of the things that I'm going to say today are personal. And I'd like to invite you into a place of a little bit of vulnerability today, even around your tables. Because in leadership, everybody here is in leadership to some degree. Leadership can be scary and it's hard, and that comes from a place of vulnerability. So to the degree that you're comfortable doing that, I would ask you to really think about that as we go through this talk. Real quick though, this is the important part. I've been a husband for 11 years, married to Jane. Some people say I outkicked my coverage. Some people say I wasn't playing the same sport. I would say yes to both. A dad of 3. I've got twin girls who are 9. My little man he turned 6 last week. Got to send him a picture of an elk last night. He went bananas. He asked me why I didn't kill it. Didn't have a good answer for it. I grew up in Alabama. You will hear me say y'all a lot, unashamedly. I went to Auburn University where I got my business degree, and then God called me to go make a lot more money, and I went into youth ministry. So everybody in ministry out there, I feel you, and it is worth it. It is good. But what I learned being in ministry is the same practices, systems, processes, people, they still apply, whether you're in ministry or business. We're still talking about elite performance of your team, not elite performance of your for-profit business. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. At K-Life, there's a chapter in Denver. There used to be a chapter in Boulder. There used to be a chapter in Sheridan. I was a regional director over all those and many in Texas. I still hold the single record for a regional director shutting down chapters. And y'all, I say that as a joke, but it also... There still needs to be the elite performance. And sometimes we have to make those hard decisions, and we'll talk about that a little bit. I went from there to the Champion Group where I was consulting nonprofits on how to run better as a business, basically. Run as efficiently and effectively as possible, which led me to Fire Seeds. So I've been at Fire Seeds now for about 2.5 years. Fire Seeds is an executive search firm. So we hire, think director level all the way to C-suite. We want to partner with kingdom-minded businesses to go find great talent. And I'm actually going to contradict myself a little bit today because we go find talent for people. And we find talent that fits their culture. And here in a minute, I'll tell you why that's not enough. And that's really the crux of what we're talking about today. I want to give a shout out to our sister company, WildSpark. Everything you see today, everything in my talk is taken directly from a module from their leadership development platform. So they partner with Patrick Lencioni and the Table Group, with the Working Genius. They use it as a backbone for their platform to scale leadership development. And that's what brings us today to talking about driving elite performance. So we're going to go through 5 components of this blueprint today for elite. It's empowerment, leadership by example, inspiration, trust, and excellence. And I'm sorry if you're in the back. I didn't realize you'd be that far, but you will have my email. I will send you all the slides, and I'll try to talk through it so you can take notes, Dixie. So we're going to break this up into 2 different sections today, 2 different modules with time to talk at your table. Because when I come to these things, y'all, there is no way that I'm the smartest person in this room. There's no way that I know the most about the subject that I'm talking on. There's a lot of wisdom in this room. And so I want y'all to talk in your table about what we are discussing today so that you can gain wisdom and build new friendships here. So we're going to talk about two questions. How do capable teams fail? And then secondly, how do you build elite cultures? How are they built? So to jump into this first section, we're going to tackle the first question. How do capable teams underperform? We can talk through the first two components, empowerment and leadership by example. And to kick us off, I wanted to give a great example because, y'all, it's March. And March, I think, is one of the greatest months of the entire year. Okay? It's great weather and there's flowers and that's beautiful and that's great. You know what happens in March, right? March Madness. The greatest sporting event that mankind has ever dreamed up. It's fantastic. I will not work for 3 days straight. I'll be at the office, but my monitor will have basketball on 2 of them, and then I'll be working on 1, the smallest one for sure. And y'all, in 2018, something happened in March Madness that had never happened in the history of the greatest sporting event that mankind has ever dreamed up. See, up until that point, it was a given, right? You're filling out your bracket. Who fills out a bracket in here? Maybe I should ask who doesn't fill out a bracket. Right? When you get to the 16 seed, what do? They're going to lose. Not in 2018. UMBC, the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, wherever that is, they go up against the 1 seed, Virginia. All right, Virginia was not just a 1 seed. They were the overall 1 seed. They were coming in hot. In this game, they were 25-1 betting odds to win over UMBC. Y'all, that's, by Vegas odds, that's like 99.9%. You take that every time. Virginia was clearly the better team. They had the talent. They had the speed. They had the size. They had everything. They had come in on a bender from their season. Yo, they had 3 guys. 1 guy went in the 5th round in 2019. In the 5th overall in the draft. And then they had 3 who go 55 or sooner. Okay, so they had talent. That's what I do. I hire talent for people. Fire Seeds hires talent. Didn't matter. Why did it not matter? Because it wasn't a close score. They beat them by 20. UMBC scores 53 points in the second half. That's 1 under what Virginia scored the whole game. How'd they do it? They ran their game plan. They knew exactly what they needed to do and they executed. See, Virginia loved slowing the game down. They wanted to stifle. They were like a boa constrictor with their defense and their offense. They would constrict teams to where they would just go at this slow pace. UMBC said, nah. They get a steal, they get a rebound, they push it down the court. Virginia was amazing in the paint. So what did UMBC do? 1, they shot lights out from the arc. That was amazing. But they took the shots that they were given, even though Virginia had better talent. So this gets into the first point that I want to make. We're going to talk about 1 illusion and 3 problems within these first 2 components of the blueprint. First is the performance illusion. Most leaders often assume underperformance in your business, in your ministry, is wrong people. And that can be true. Don't hear me wrong. But most leaders think it's wrong people, low motivation, or capability gaps. More commonly, it's rooted in clarity gaps, expectation management, and priority confusion. You don't know exactly what you need to do. Now, it can be talent. It can be people. But as leaders, I want you to think first, is it clarity, is it priority, or is it expectation first? Because I've seen a lot of teams like UMBC rise up. I've seen a lot of teams that we work with rise up, and I wouldn't look at their team and go, hey, they've got all A players. Everybody wants A players. But what can you do when things are crystal clear? So that's the performance illusion. And so we want to get into this first component of empowerment. Okay, and as we look at this, the key here is clarity and ownership. We just talked about clarity. We're going to talk about ownership. This is where I'm going to start asking you to start really self-reflecting. In this talk, I don't want you thinking about your team. I want you to have a mirror up in front of your face. I want you to be thinking about yourself. And we'll talk about the components of why that is. But here's the first of 3 problems, the clarity problem. Ownership does not emerge from personality. Ownership emerges from definition. I want to expand on that just a little bit because ownership does not come from personality. What do I mean by that? We talk to a lot of people. I've got one of my guys here today, Michael Cindric right here. He's one of our top guys at Fire Seeds, and we see this all the time. We will go and get ready to launch a search for someone, and they'll say, man, if I just had somebody more entrepreneurial, if I just had more of a self-starter, I want to pioneer this new industry, I want to break into a new market. If I just had somebody who looked like X, it would fix my problem. No, it won't. It might help. But what if you don't have great clarity and definition for what that person needs or what success looks like? And so most people think that that's the problem, is I just need another personality. You know, you need to give great definition as a leader. So here are the key ideas, the key takeaways about the clarity problem. People hesitate inside ambiguity. Now, I want to give a disclaimer here. This is a room full of visionaries and leaders and CEOs. You may be thinking, I love ambiguity. Of course you do. You're a visionary. That's why you built a business. That's why you see things that other people don't. We're talking about the elite performance of your team. Your team doesn't need ambiguity. Vague priorities suppress initiative. Get crystal clear on what your priorities are. And activity does not equal progress. Activity, while it's towards a certain goal or metric that is defined, that will lead to progress. But just busyness, that's not necessarily the case. So this year at Fire Seeds, year over year, we grew 63%. It was crazy. Crazy good, crazy, all the crazies. I don't share that to go, hey, look at us. But one thing that we did during the year, right at the beginning of 2025, we implemented EOS. Has anybody heard of EOS? Anybody implementing EOS? It's fantastic. My buddy Brian Ratanassin is here up from Denver. Brian, raise your hand real quick. Brian can explain a lot more of what I'm about to breeze over in like 2.5 minutes. But this is a huge piece of why we succeeded and grew 63%, which is crazy to do in a year. And this is why we clarified relentlessly. Leaders, this is your job. Whether you're the CEO, whether you're the owner, whether you're a manager, whether you're an associate pastor, you need to clarify relentlessly. I did not say clarify. Relentlessly is an ongoing process. So here's what we did throughout the year of 2025. We said, what's the problem? We defined the problem well. A well-defined problem is already half solved. Then we said, what does success look like? We have a problem. We need to know what success looks like. And once we defined success, and we said, okay, what can we actually do about it? We don't have time for you to shout out questions, but I would love for you to think about how many times have you had a problem at work, at your home, at your church? You know the problem's there, but then what do? What's the urge? We're going to come up with a solution. We got a problem, let's come up with a solution. Well, did you define the problem? Does the solution that you need actually meet that desired end goal of success? And here's the question, what decisions can you make right now? What can you actually do? And then ask yourself this, have you empowered your team to make those decisions? Have you communicated to the Michaels on your team to go, Michael, I know that we defined it. I know we know what success looks like. Here's your parameters. Go. Because empowerment is going to hold people back. It's going to hold teams back if you're not giving that away. That is a scary place to be. Because here's the ownership problem. Delegation failures are usually design failures, not effort failures. This is why I'm asking you to put up a mirror. I know this is kind of scary. It can hurt. But as leaders, we've got to be honest with ourselves. Are we designing these delegations to our team so that they can win? Because, y'all, I have no doubt how hard Michael Cindric works. I have no doubt how hard my team will work. But have I designed it in such a way where they can run and go do it? And here are the common traps that I fall into. These are just ones. This is not from WildSpark. This is what I actually put on the slide. Tasks delegated without outcomes. Responsibility without authority. I might tell Michael to go do something, but then I don't actually give him the authority to follow through with it. Who wants to work for that guy? That's stifling. Leaders rescuing too early. Y'all, this is one of the hardest things to do as a leader. And I'm terrible at it. I'm a 2 on the Enneagram. I'm the helper. I love helping. Michael can verify everything I'm saying today. If you rescue your team too early, you will never give them a chance to grow. But what does that entail? It means you have to let them fail. Now look, I get it. I'm basically running the day-to-day operations of our business right now. We have a CEO. He's incredible. That's terrifying to let people fail. And I'm not letting them just go out and fail on big projects, but how are you progressing and letting your people get into uncomfortable situations? Because without that, you're not actually empowering them. And so when you're delegating, I want you to think about this. Are you delegating effort or are you delegating ownership? It's really important. Effort or ownership. Delegating effort will be workload, task, and activity, right? Delegating ownership is decision authority, outcome responsibility, clarity of success, and psychological ownership. I'm going to camp out here for just a second. This one right here, that's huge. We did not start 2025 in a place as a leadership team where I felt comfortable just giving psychological ownership of projects off. We implemented some big things. We implemented an account management plan that completely changed how we interacted with our partners. We implemented a certification program for all of our recruiters at multiple levels across multiple industries. And I let somebody take that off. I don't like to give up control. It's hard. But they came back, and there were several things that they came back with on their projects. I said, no, we're not doing that. That's a terrible idea. And then they came back, with ideas I hadn't even thought of because they had psychological ownership of the issue, of the problem, of the project. So the next component of this that I want to go into is leadership by example, accountability and stability, because you can't empower someone without accountability. Am I right? You can't just let them run wild. But here's the accountability problem. Here's our second problem. Accountability struggles are often leadership consistency problems. Let's put that mirror up again. Accountability struggles are often leadership consistency problems. Y'all, teams will mirror the leader's behavior every time. It falls down. Inconsistency erodes credibility. So one thing that we identified at Fire Seeds, we want to have a growth mindset. We want to be marked by a growth mindset. We said, okay, well, that's ambiguous. It's a good goal, but that's really ambiguous. What can we do to accomplish that? We said, all right, in every one-on-one that we have, every one-on-one that I have with Michael, we come in and we go, at the end of the meeting, I'm going to give him one encouragement, one thing he's doing well, and I'm going to give him one challenge. What can you be doing better? And then I turn it around and have him do that to me. So I get an encouragement and a challenge from him every single week. It's terrifying. We said that at the beginning of the year. What if we hadn't done that? What if we had said, hey, this is a great initiative and we want to have a growth mindset, and then we don't do it? Do you think I'm going to have as much credibility with Michael and the rest of the team? No, I'm not. So that inconsistency erodes credibility. Culture follows reinforced patterns. That's a pattern for us. That one-on-one is a pattern. That's a rhythm. Rhythms stabilize expectations. You have an expectation to be excellent, to be elite. But that has to be baked into the rhythms of what you do week to week. So here's where I want to land the plane for this first section and these first two components of our blueprint. How do capable teams underperform? This is where I'm going to have almost contradict myself because I'm in the talent business. I go find great talent for people, but leaders try to fix talent before clarity. Y'all should ask Michael how many times we start a search and there's a lack of clarity. He's smiling right now because he knows exactly how bad it is. If you don't have clarity about where you're going, who you need, you can't go get them. You've got to get that clarity to be able to empower them and lead by example. Most leaders try to solve performance by upgrading people. Elite leaders solve performance by upgrading alignment. You get super clear. That's all we did. Y'all, we didn't change a lot. We hired one person. One person this year that we hired grew 63% because we just got focused and we started handing things off. And then Cord and I had to make sure that we were doing what we said we would. So here's what I want to do in our table discussions. I've given 4 questions up here. And y'all, if you are here with your team, some of these may not be best for you to tackle today. Okay, I'm just being honest. Number 4, where could you be creating dependency as a leader? Don't rip into your boss. But leaders, think about these. Take these home with you. So here's the 4. Where does lack of clarity most commonly create friction in your organization? Number 2, share a recent performance issue. Don't do that if that person is here. Share a recent performance issue. Was it talent related or was it clarity related? Number 3, does accountability feel stable or situational in your culture at your organization? And number 4, where could you be creating dependency as a leader? So you're not going to get through all 4 of these. I'm going to give us about 5 to 7 minutes. So just go around the table, share, talk, and I'll bring us back here in just a second. All right, let's come back together. Dive into these next couple of components. I hope that was good for you guys. I hope this is good time. This is great conversation. There's no way that you can cover all 4 of those questions in a short amount of time that I gave you. We want you to get back to work. We want you to be able to stay on schedule. But what I would encourage you to do is to take these questions back and start talking with your leadership team about it. Start asking these questions of your leadership team. Y'all, leadership is a lonely position. It is a lonely position to be in. And to open yourself up, Jamie Winship has just written a book, Living Fearless. To be a leader takes great courage. And to ask these questions of your team, like if I went to Michael and said, hey, where do you think I'm creating dependency? Y'all, that's scary. So know that what I'm asking you to do, put that mirror up in front of your face, but this is a process. You don't have to do this all today, but take these questions back, think about them, pray about them, and start inviting your team to ask them. And start asking them to ask them about themselves as well. So I want to jump into the second part of the blueprint. So empowerment, leadership by example, you do need to do those things, but more often than not, those are hindrances. Those are things that you need to be careful not to fall into the traps of. So now we're going to pivot and say, well, how are elite cultures built? Now you do need to empower and lead by example for elite cultures to be built, but I want to focus on the last 3 components: inspiration, trust, and excellence. Everybody, you've got to be excellent to have an elite team. Look, I don't like the guy because he coaches at that other team, but Nick Saban was excellent. Thank goodness he's gone. War Eagle. But in order to do that, you have to have trust. Before that, you have to have inspiration. One of the greatest stories of leadership, maybe in history, was Ernest Shackleton. And so in 1914, this advertisement came up in the paper. Y'all, Michael and I are in recruiting. Please don't write your advertisement and job description like this, okay? We would not recommend it. But it was a different era. Here's what he says. Men wanted for hazardous journeys, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in event of success. Ernest Shackleton, 4 Burlington Street. Y'all, this got a huge response. That's inspiring. And at the time, in that time, exploration, there were still parts of the world that were unexplored, mainly Antarctica, which is what Ernest Shackleton wanted to do. He wanted to have a trans-Antarctic voyage. They'd already made it to the South Pole. Now they wanted to go across Antarctica. It was a huge endeavor. Well, the journey did not go well. He got 28 men, had a lot more than that apply. He had 28 men, they get trapped in the ice pack. So they sail down, they were trying to thread the needle to get to solid ice. The ice pack moves in, their ship sinks. There's a phenomenal documentary about this as well. They actually found their ship, the Endurance. The ship sinks, and what they did was they got everything off. They took the lifeboats with them, and they started this journey of survival. There's no way they're crossing Antarctica. They start this journey of survival, and they make their way over the ice, over water, and they find some uncharted island. It's the first time that the crew's feet had touched solid ground in 18 months. From there, Ernest Shackleton takes a very small group in essentially a lifeboat, kind of a large lifeboat, sails over 800 miles to the island of Georgia, lands on the wrong side. So he thinks, I made it to the island. I'm good. Nope. Now you have to do a 36-hour trek over mountains to get to the small whaling village just for the hope of getting back to his men to rescue them and succeed. They make several attempts. They finally make it back. Not a man died. It was unbelievable. Complete failure of the mission, and we still herald Ernest Shackleton as one of the greatest leadership examples in history. And y'all, this guy leveraged everything. It would be the equivalent of leveraging your mortgage, your house, your kid's college fund, your 401k. He put everything on the line. He could inspire. Okay? So this gets us into our first component. Inspire. It's a key component for an elite team. And I would say, just from talking with a lot of y'all in this room, you can inspire. But inspiration alone is not enough. To get his men on the boat took some motivational talking, which apparently didn't do well in his advertisement. But he cast a vision, he inspired. But motivation and energy, when you're driving elite performance, when you're building an elite team, that has to be sustained. To cast vision, to go, hey, come be on the team. Hey, come play for my college football team. Hey, come be a part of something. That's the start. And I would venture a guess that a lot of y'all in here are good at that first part. But sustaining motivation, what we see with Ernest Shackleton is this concept of push or pull. And I want you to think about how do you sustain motivation? Do you push people? Which means, do you pressure them? Do you just try to get them into compliance? Do I tell Michael, don't ask questions, man. Just make 100 cold calls a day. Don't ask why. That's compliance. Or do you have a pull motivation like Shackleton and go, hey guys, if we do this is going to be something nobody's ever done before. But pulling implies you're going first. That you are bringing people along with you, not pushing them in front of you. Push to pull motivation is absolutely key for inspiration. Because here's the key idea is that people endure difficulty when effort has meaning. Those men on that expedition endured hardships that, unless you just gotten lost out in the mountains, which maybe some of y'all do, because I know y'all do that kind of stuff out in Colorado, we can't imagine. Y'all, their shoes, the shoes that they were wearing and the coverings over their boots, they were made from deer skin. And a couple of months in, the fur, which was a key component of the insulation, it starts just falling off. So then they got nasty deer hair all in their feet and socks. I mean, there's frostbite, cold, pneumonia. Not once did they mutiny. Not once. I'm sure there was some dissent and they didn't agree. Not one person died. Because when you cast vision as a leader and then you pull people along with you, they'll do more than you could ever imagine. Progress fuels performance. I want to be really clear about this. I'm talking theoretically and kind of pie in the sky for most of this. You got to win. You got to win. Nick Saban could not have built Alabama and get all the 5 stars if he had not produced wins. One of the greatest seasons in Alabama was when Nick Saban's first season, I think it was, he didn't quite have a losing season, but it was close. It was great. After that, nope. He was excellent. We all want to be excellent, but you have to show people progress. But there's two types of progress. There's, in business, progress towards your goals. A lot of times that's revenue or profit. But then there's other types of progress too. And what you need to do as a leader is to create meaning and momentum out of that progress. So this year we did something really cool. We got to execute our largest search in the history of Fire Seeds. And typically we're doing anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 comp. That's typically what we're going after. Excuse me. We did a CHRO search for an oil and gas company that was a $1.2 million comp package. We've never done that. And that was great because that really allowed us to hit some revenue targets that we were chasing. But, and I did this by accident. I don't want to make it sound like I had this all planned out. I wish I had. I went to the recruiter who executed that search and I said, hey, do you know what this means? Like we said last year that we want to be the best recruiting firm in the nation. You just made a huge step towards that. You did that. $1.2 million comp. Should never done anything close to that. As leaders, we have to create the meaning because I talk to Michael about this all the time in our team. You have to tie strings. You have to tie threads because between an event and the vision, most of the time your team's not going to put that together. You think about it all day, every day. As an owner, as a visionary, as a founder, they don't. Sustain that momentum by ruthlessly going towards your goal and going, hey, come on, I got you. I got you. Hey, we just made over a hill. There's the goal. We're getting closer. Here's how we're getting closer. Here's why that's important. And as you do that, you're going to build trust. I don't know that there is a more foundational component to building elite teams than trust. And this is stability and leadership climate is what we're going to go over here. Leaders don't always control conditions. Can I get an amen? Can't do it. Wouldn't it be great if you could? Leaders always influence climate. I want to share a very personal story of Fire Seed. So Cord Sachs is our CEO. Just unbelievable man. Respect him a ton. And about 6 to 9 months ago, we started having a conversation. And he said, hey, I've got 6 kids. And his oldest is out of college. He's been working in ministry for 2 years. And they wanted to start talking about him coming into the business and working at Fire Seeds. So we've been game planning. So we sat down last Thursday for our leadership offsite. Y'all, it's Cord's business. He's the owner, he's the founder, he's the CEO. He can do whatever he wants. It's his prerogative. And we told him that. Here's what Cord did. He said, guys, I know this is my decision. I want to open this up. Can y'all tell me how you feel about where the business is at and what's best for my son? Speak into it for me. What am I not seeing? Absolutely blew me away to have an owner, founder, CEO say that. That built a lot of trust. And guess what? Here's the crazy part. We're not bringing him on. Not this year. We will. He's an excellent young man. Incredible. Any of y'all would want to hire him. I want to hire him. But it wasn't best right now. Cord opened himself up. That built a lot of trust. And you know what that does? When you have that trust component, this is why it matters. Trust becomes oxygen under pressure. When you have that problem, when those conditions go south, y'all are in the mountains. Y'all know how this works. You get up, you start, it's hard to breathe. That problem is overwhelming. You just calm down for a second. Cord essentially just said, let's slow down. Let's talk about is this best. So building trust means you're following through. You're consistent. You're not eroding your credibility. You're holding people accountable. It also means you're opening yourself up. Because as leaders, teams borrow emotional stability from you. But I want to make sure this is clear. I'm not saying they take it from you. It's a very important distinction. I hope you have a work-life balance in a community that can come alongside you where you're not overtaxing, but they are going to borrow it from you. We talk a lot. I get a lot of people coming in my office, which is one of my greatest privileges, but I hear all the problems all the time. And we just go, hey, are those emotions? Are those facts? We don't discount emotions. Feelings are real, but are they rooted in facts? You're borrowing my stability. I'm helping you do that. That's oxygen under pressure. Because panic degrades judgment, right? We have a problem, we're panicked, I'm panicked, let's just get it done. That's not going to lead to elite performance in your team, in your business. Calm authority stabilizes performance, and trust accelerates decisions and reduces friction. It accelerates decisions and reduces friction. Do y'all know how long the conversation about Cord son lasted in our leadership offsite? I mean, that's a big deal. I don't know if anybody's been in these family discussions about who's coming in and who's not and what's going on. 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes because of the trust that Cord had built with us and how he wanted to listen and engage. Now, the last component that we're going to talk about here is excellence. I don't think any of you in here would say, we don't want to be excellent. We just want to be mediocre. No, you all want to be excellent. Everybody wants to be excellent in what you do. Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it as if working for the Lord and not for men. We are called to excellence as believers. But excellence requires high standards, right? Nick Saban, I hate that I have to use him as an example so much, but he's incredible. He set the standard, right? Trust the process. He had extremely high standards, but he had to reinforce those. But guess what he couldn't do? He couldn't come in day one and go, hey, we're excellent. No, you're not. Alabama's in shambles. It's a fantastic time to be an Auburn fan. So if you want to be excellent, you can't just declare it. I don't know if I have any Office fans, right? Michael Scott comes out of his office. I declare bankruptcy. And his accountants are like, dude, it doesn't work that way. You need to declare that you want to be excellent. If it's in your core values, if it's on your goals, whatever it is. But excellence is not declared, it's reinforced. It's reinforced constantly in every little decision, in every interaction. How you deal with a vendor, how you deal with an outstanding invoice, how you deal with these problems that come up that we can't even think about would happen before you go into work. In the little things, excellence is reinforced over and over and over. Because here, if you're trying to sustain those high standards, because y'all, elite performers, A players, they want high standards. 5-star players don't want to go down to Jacksonville State and play. They want to come play for Alabama because the standard is high. So if you want great people, great talent, you have to have high standards and you have to have clarity. But here's how you do this. Standards drift without reinforcement. I don't know how many times that we have to keep saying the standards. But here's what I do know. As a leader, when you think you've said it enough, it's just starting to be caught. You have to reinforce it constantly. Culture follows tolerated behavior. So if you want to have a standard of excellence, that's great. Your culture is only going to rise as far as the tolerated behavior that you allow.
That's good.
Who's that on? Who's that come back to? Is it the team? That's me. That's a heavy burden. You don't have to do it alone, but that's a heavy burden. That's why I say, let's put up this mirror to go, what am I doing? How am I reinforcing standards with Michael and the rest of the team? Because high standards with high support, that's an elite culture. Not just saying we want to be elite, not just having high standards, the support, the empowerment, lead by example, inspire, build trust. Excellence will lead to being elite if those components are there. That's why it's a blueprint. You can't do any one of these without the other. And there's not a perfect sequence to it either. It's not like you can just go, okay, we're going to start by empowering our people. No, you got to talk about how you're going to hold them accountable. All right, well, how am I going to inspire them? What do I need to do to build trust? I haven't done one thing to build trust with Michael. It's every interaction, every day where we put in these tiny deposits that leads to excellence. So what is elite performance? Well, I'll tell you what it isn't first. It's not a motivational event. If we're talking about elite performance, this right here would just be the start. If y'all were all in my company and I said all these things, now I've got to go back it up. It's not just a motivational event. It's not a talent accident. We saw this with Virginia. You can't just put a bunch of great guys on a team and expect to win a national championship. It's not an accident when you're putting this together. And it's not a personality phenomenon. It's not just bringing in one person and it changing. What it is, it's designed, it's reinforced, it's modeled by you, and then it's sustained by leadership. Notice what I just said there. Not leader, leadership. Because what we've been able to do and what's been the coolest thing, and I'll end with this, and then we're going to do table discussion again before we want to leave time for panel and Q&A, because there's a lot of great people in here that are going to give input into all of this. When we started last year, we started with myself and Court. We needed to make sure that we were understanding where we're going. Then we started trickling that down to leadership. Now we're trickling it down to the rest of the team. You can't do this alone. An elite team is not a singular effort. It's a leadership effort. It's sustained by leadership. And if I can at all, I just want to take that burden off of you. The more you can be vulnerable with your team, the more that they're going to lean in and catch this. And the more you pull them along, the more that burden is going to get easier. That's counter to almost everything that I see in corporate America. It's counter to what I see even in a lot of ministries. People want to follow a leader who will empower them, who will let them fail. And so I want to give you the freedom to do that as y'all leave. So here's a couple of questions, table discussion. And I'll give you about 10 minutes for this one. We got 4 questions again, same format. Number 1, between inspiration, trust, and excellence, which one does your business or organization struggle with most? Number 2, do you have a pull or push culture in your organization right now? Number 3, what makes work feel meaningful in your culture? What's that North Star? What's the vision that you're casting that gives meaning to people's work? Number 4, how does your team experience you under stress? Again, if you're with your team, I might save that one till later. It's a good question to ask, and I would encourage you to, but let's not open up and have free reign on your boss today. But how does your team experience you under stress? So let's break. I'll bring us back here in about 8 to 10 minutes.
Awesome. One of the things I love about this panel is this is the frameworks. If you've been in business a long time, these cultural frameworks are starting to become new and very popular. But I think growing up, a lot of you guys would say, we didn't have this framework. We figured it out as we went. But what's really cool is that you're here because your lives are a testament to the framework. So what you guys have built has worked, and then leaders have watched you and created these incredible culture frameworks that we get to then just learn from. So what a privilege to have you guys up here. Thank you. We're just going to jump into the questions. So our first question is just kind of like Dan talked about, to anchor us in the early stages of the Acts journey, standing up in your calling and stepping forward in faith. Will you just briefly introduce yourself, the organization that you lead, and then the size of your team? And Mike, you have the microphone, so start first.
Hello. Hello. You gotta help me out, Walter. Thank you. Mike Walker, Sir 6'8". Have a relatively small team of 11 people, but we have quite a few volunteers that work with us.
Morning, everybody. Wasn't that awesome? Thank you, Walter, for sharing that. That was very inspiring. I mean, who here is inspired? I sure am. So my name is Tom Hall, and own a couple of businesses here in town, have about 85 people, and native of Colorado. So proud to be here.
I'm Travis Swan. I'm a pastor Some of You Church in Fort Collins. We have 4 full-time pastors. We've got 9 full-time staff, church of about 400. And in my spare time, I'm the board president for the Fort Collins Church Network. 20-some churches in Fort Collins, lead pastors get together for the sake of relationship with one another, to pray for one another, and to partner for impact for the sake of the city.
Okay, and we've heard from Walter, and Dan as well. So the next question, we're just kind of talking about multiplication and ownership. So that's stage 3 through stage 5. At this stage of your leadership journey, how would you define your calling and mission? And how has growing clarity, personally and organizationally, translated into momentum, alignment, or even breakthrough?
Wow, that's a lot. Let me tackle the first part. I would say where I'm at in my calling now, I believe clearly I'm a equipper and a releaser of people into their personal ministry. And I think we get to do that, Sir 6-8, on a pretty big level. I get to do that for a lot of leaders. So I'm a leader of leaders at this point. And so I don't know how else I would answer that, but here you go, Tom.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
For those of you that know me, know that I like a microphone. So if I start singing, it's just in my nature. But I got to admit, just talking about being vulnerable, this is new to me. This isn't something that I've always done, is share my faith. And for me, as a business owner, I became a business owner here about 8 years ago. And I grew up, my mom always used to say, I think you're going to be a priest. And for those that know me, know that I am very far from a priest. But I spent a lot of time working out there in the business world and working with people and growing companies and things like that. And I always looked at pastors when they got up and they talked and they gave this incredible sermon, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I want that. I want to be able to do that. And so I went a long time just thinking I could be that someday. But then it just hit me one day, and I actually was at a Kingdom Way event probably 15 years ago, and it was at Foundations Church. And it just hit me, and it said, you know what? You could be a pastor of your company. And that just forever has changed my life, because now I look at it, and I look at it that my business partner will call me the chaplain, and I try to live these values and just be real about it and meet people where they are. And so I feel like I'm right in my calling, which is just an amazing thing, an amazing place to be. So thank you.
Yeah, that's good. So as a pastor, I take scripture seriously, obviously. Ephesians chapter 4 talks about God giving gifts to the church, but those gifts are people. He gives apostles, prophets, evangelists, shepherds, and teachers. And it says in verse 12 that he gives those to equip the saints for the work of ministry. I think a lot of people have a clergy laity distinction, and they say, oh, that guy up on stage, he's the one doing the work of ministry. And years ago, I started telling the church, hey, you guys are the ministers. One of our core values is every member a minister of the church. The clarity that I got years and years and years ago is it's not my job. So to use a sports analogy, I don't know if golf a sport?
There is a ball there. So.
There's a ball. That's about it, though. Anyway. So I tell our staff, you guys are like golf caddies. You can suggest the club, you can put the tee in the right place, you can give guidance, you can give suggestions, you can monitor the wind, but if you pick up the club and swing it, you're doing the wrong thing. The body is amazing, and God has gifted us with so many unique, amazing people, and the Holy Spirit fills them and equips them and then sends them out, and the church exists to equip those people to be released.
I'll just share real quick. I love the question. There were so many parts to it, and it's so good to hear all of this, because when we're talking about vision and when we're talking about clarity and breakthrough and multiplication, that's what we got to do this year, really through EOS. And what we got to do was define a 10-year vision, and then we created a 3-year picture, and we have a 1-year plan. And then we created a scoreboard, which sounds super sterile, right? It's like, man, these are all numbers. Well, in our 3-year picture, we said, we want to see the lives of the families that work here impacted, and we want to see them in a healthy family work-life balance and growing closer to the Lord. And so we put it on our scoreboard, and we talk about that all the time. And because of, and that clarity leads to control leads to breakthrough, and it's a continuous cycle. And so we've got to see breakthrough in revenue this year. That's always fun. That's good. But we've got to even get clarity and start to move into control of what does it mean for Fire Seeds to live out our vision of, we want to glorify God so as we serve multiplying movements of multiplying leaders. Like that's what we do. And so as we gain that clarity, then there's control, and we see that multiplication effect. But that wouldn't happen without us sitting down to define that and then talking about how we could do that best. And more importantly, what we say no to.
Yeah. Well, and what a testament that in business you can do both. And I think sometimes that's scary, because we think, well, we need to high drive bottom line, or we need to high drive culture, and there's going to be compromise somewhere. But if there's clarity and there's all the things that you talked about, you can have the best of both worlds. That's awesome. Dan, did you want to say anything? Okay. All right. Our next question, panel, and you guys can popcorn this. So if you don't want to answer it, you can just say pass, then we'll move on to the next question. If you do want to answer it, grab the mic. But in Acts, rapid growth required not just clarity and courage, but multiplication. Delegation sounds simple, but true ownership transfer is rare. What do you believe prevents leaders, and you guys can share personal stories, what do you believe prevents leaders from truly transferring ownership so that multiplication can actually happen?
Fear of loss of control.
Yep.
And here's a big one, fear of judgment. See, when we invite people into our processes, into our thinking, into our vision, and they're in this journey, they always measure themselves against your vision, and you take a tremendous amount of criticism when you let other people into your world. And so to become the equipping leader we all want to be, we have to grow past that. We have to allow people to exercise, I call it the cat scratching post. I'm often a cat scratching post for other leaders as they figure stuff out. And I think in the early days of my leadership, I didn't know how to handle that. I've learned how to handle that now and receive it so that they can move past that. And then I equip them to understand that's a part of the process that they will have to go through. So fear, in my mind, is the big one.
Yeah. And perfect love casts out fear. So I think this has a lot to do with identity. What is your identity? Is your identity in your indispensability, your ability to get things done, your reputation? If your identity is higher than that, if it's rooted in what Christ has purchased for you, if it's rooted in having full access to God and being inhabited by His Spirit and empowered and equipped and released, that changes everything about how you're going to respond to those moments. And I think a lot of people are just afraid, like you said. But it's afraid I'm going to lose something. I'm going to lose my credibility, my reputation, and you're not locked into your identity in Christ.
Oh.
Yeah, for me, so our company, we started the Waypoint side of it about 8 years ago, and it was me and a part-time bookkeeper on the property management side, and then we had a few brokers. And in 8 years, we've 10x that. So we've gone from me and that to almost 50 people. And it's been a huge shift for me to go from working on the business versus in the business. And I'll be honest with you, it was not very good for a long time because I felt like everything was on me. And I actually went home one day, and I'll never forget this because I still have the journal. And I just wrote in the journal, I said, I can't do this anymore. And I actually picked up a podcast from Craig Groeschel, and he had gone through some burnout in his life. And he talked about Isaiah at the broom tree. Is that Isaiah? No. Elijah, thank you. I'm learning.
Pastor for the win.
I'm new. But it talked about Elijah at the broom tree, and it was like, I can't take this anymore. And so to your point, relative to my identity, I always thought it was like in my works and what I do. And once I shifted that thinking that my identity is that I'm in Jesus and I love Jesus, it's just changed everything for me, because all my conversations are just so much different now with people, where it's I try to see God in everybody. I mean, today was so beneficial to me to hear that, because you do start thinking about, well, is it the wrong person? Well, maybe I haven't done my job and made it clear. So you're just constantly challenging yourself. And once I made it about something bigger than just, okay, yeah, we might lose a little bit of money on this, or this customer might not like me anymore, or whatever it might be, it's that fear just kind of, it doesn't go away by any means, but you just learn ways to cope with it. I don't know, did I answer the question?
You sure did. That was great. Do you guys want to say anything?
I answered it great.
Okay. All right. You had talked about this kind of in your talk about putting a mirror up to ourselves today, and to be human. I think it's fascinating as a leader. It's easy for me to encourage people, my team. It's easy for me to help them work through their fears. It gets easier for us to sell our product. We have to help people overcome fears about what it is we're offering them in business. But then to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, Nikki, now you need to stop being afraid of your own failures and yourself. And you selling yourself, God, there's identity here, and there's value, and there's fearlessness, and there's love, and there's perfect peace. And I get to take all those things and translate them into the people that I encourage. So looking in the mirror, the fear is huge. I might not exude it as a leader because it's our job to be strong and confident, but man, to be humble before the Lord too, and say, God, I can't do this. Will you help me? And he comes into those really cool spaces. So question number 4, again, just kind of popcorn if you want to answer it. This is from excellence to kingdom impact. Elite performance in the kingdom doesn't stop at internal excellence. It moves toward intentional care, generosity, and community impact. Will you share specific ways that you are intentionally caring for, developing, and mobilizing your people, not just for organizational success, but for broader kingdom impact in the community?
Okay, I'll start. So our why is to create meaningful impact with our team, our customers, and our community. And so it's a big reason, talking what Walter was talking about is, what is your why? Number one, you got to have that so that it guides those conversations with people, so that it's not just about real estate or fixing a furnace or whatever it is. It's about our why is to create impact in the community. So we're really big into giving back to the community. One of the things we've done is partnered up with Serve 6-8. And I just am a firm believer. I heard this the other day, and somebody needs to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the Serve 6-8 event yesterday that 9% of Northern Colorado are Christians. Does that sound right?
Yep, it's accurate.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
9%? So you walk by 10 people and only one other person is a Christian? I wouldn't have known that. And so I think business has an amazing opportunity to partner with the churches and with leaders like Dan and other people to make an impact, because that's where it's going to happen. I mean, there's a revival going on out there. I mean, I know churches are talking about the number of people getting baptized. I mean, there is something stirring. I think everybody in this room knows that. Yep. And I think as business owners, we need to be very vocal about that, and we need to step up and be out there and work with organizations like Serve 6-8. One of the things we've done we actually started a few years ago where we'd send out these gift baskets to clients, and you get some crackers and cheese, and most of it goes in the trash. Well, what we did is we did a Christmas card where we just said, hey, in lieu of a gift basket, we made a donation to Serve 6-8 for your gift. And so this year we started that with Serve 6-8, and I think we raised about $25,000 by doing that with businesses. So if you're interested in that for next year, reach out to Mike, because it's an amazing opportunity.
Yep.
So just being out there in the community is the main thing.
Yep. So a quick story. So I've been telling the church for years, the church is you. It's not brick and mortar. It's not the building. When you come to church on Sunday morning, you're not coming to this place, you're coming to a people. And you are the ministers, right? So we're equipping you to be released for the work of ministry. So somebody came up to me some years ago and he said, I have this idea for missions and I'd love for the pastors to take it and run with it. And he shared the idea with me and I said, okay, now you're going to run with it. We're not going to do this. And he said, he's just sort of stammering. And I said, do you trust God? Do you trust the Holy Spirit? And he's like, yeah. Do you have the Holy Spirit? Yes. I said, well, then I trust that the Holy Spirit is working in you and has called you to do this. And we're going to throw everything we have behind this because I believe that God is leading you. So long story short, there's a lot of logistics in the middle. He is now in the Middle East as a missionary. He started a portal within our church. So I don't know if you know the actual data on this. It takes about 15 churches to send one overseas missionary to pay for them, to support them. We as one church, because of this one man's initiative, have 15 missionaries in the field, fully supported by our church. We're sending 2 more this upcoming week. My friend who now is in the Middle East was texting me the other night about missiles flying over his head while he's talking to Muslims during Ramadan. He's a maverick, he's amazing. None of that could have come out of my head, what he started. The church exists to equip him to run, and part of my job is just simply to get out of the way and let him do it.
That's awesome.
Dialing that up, I think maybe to a corporate level. Serve 6-8, we have 2 customers. We have the church is a major customer of ours. We really are designed to equip the church to be agents of care for their community. So we create intersection where the church can meet people. But one of the great privileges I think I enjoy the most is our intersection with the marketplace, the community members in general. So we run a huge volunteer portal for people in the community and business owners to come and serve. Last year we deployed 20,000 volunteers through that portal, and 630 of businesses engaged with us to provide a platform to give generously to people in need. And so I think for us, the intentionality is recognizing the lane of the church, equipping and helping them achieve the mission that Travis here has for some of you. And then for me, I love being intentional for you. How do I help you where you are right now, not only activate your faith, but then find a way to multiply others by using this portal. This volunteer portal opens 6 days a week, usually 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the evening. How do I get your people in? How do I help you serve? How do I help you use your business platform to give generously to the community that is so desperately in need of this message of hope in Jesus Christ, where they get to see you guys help set up the moment where a church meets a person in the most critical time of their life. And your resourcing and your muscle provide that platform for Travis to speak the words of life. Yeah. And that's the intentionality that Serve 6-8 really operates on.
Hey, Mike, could you share just a nutshell of the type of services you provide?
So in working with the community in general, people in crisis, not only a fairly large disaster relief organization, you'll see us active when stuff happens, but more practically every day, people come to our resource centers located at 15 different churches across the region. They get food, clothing, pastoral care, job placement assistance, and they also receive financial assistance, rent, utilities, things of that nature. So, and especially, in the holidays, it becomes a really big deal for Christmas and Thanksgiving food.
And what's really cool about this full circle is, Tom, you talked about I can't do it all. And then Walter, you've talked about how do us as organizations delegate to people that we trust. And so, Mike, you've just built, I know Surf 68 very well. I've had the opportunity to work with you. I know people on your team. But the trust that they've built in the community, among churches, you're a space where businesses like Tom's can come and say, I trust you to resource well to the community what we're giving to you. So whether that's volunteer hours, whether that's financial resources, whether that's other things, it's a beautiful thing to have built a legacy of trust and impact and excellence within your organization that then we get to partake of, and it bleeds out and multiplies in ways that we couldn't do it as individual business owners if we tried. So thank you, Surf 68, Mike, just for being here. Do you guys want to say, Dan?
Yeah, I'm going to share go back to the calling question real quick and then tie it into here. So I feel my personal mission statement and calling is to incite and outfit marketplace and other key community leaders to leverage their gifts, passions, positions, and possessions to transform lives, their cultures, and entire communities. And I believe that C.S. Lewis said something like this: we're called not just to transform lives, but entire communities. And so that personal mission is tied into our sense of calling as a team with Kingdom Way 100%. And the first 3 stages in particularly is to incite and outfit. We hope you're inspired. We hope we change paradigms and challenge, but then come alongside you in specific ways to help you grow your business and grow your leadership personally and your teams. But we're really excited, and I'm so glad that Mike was able to join the panel today, because we really believe that so you got the pastor. You all blend over in your roles, I'm sure, but you got the pastor, you got the producer, the business guy, and then this is the prophet. So I really believe that Mike has some prophetic gifts where God's given him some insight of some things coming, and he's preparing for disasters. And here's the really cool thing. So we're announcing an official partnership together with Surf 68 Kingdom Way Ministries, because we just think we can be, that's worthy of for sure. And so I've spent a lot of hours in prayer with this guy and some other guys, and got to know his heart, and I trust him implicitly. And I just think that maximizing and multiplying is going to come by working together more. And here's what I love about Surf 68 too, is like they are faith driven in everything they do, and they share Christ with people. It's not just social reform. It's transforming lives with what they're doing. And so we're really, really excited about this partnership. And we really wanted you to know about them, because some of you are already involved, like Tom, very intricately, and Tom serves on the board. But this is a great way. Speaking of building teams, bring your teams to serve together. There's lots of ways to do that. And then also, the multiplying impact is going to come through organizations like that. So there's just a win-win-win around, all the way around, for the kingdom, for you, and for other ministries represented on the stage. So thank you, Mike, for what you're doing.
All right, last question, gentlemen. When businesses, church, and nonprofits stop operating in silos and begin collaborating intentionally, something shifts in a city. So this is I want you guys to motivate us. I want you to cast vision. I want you to inspire. From your vantage point, what becomes possible when leaders unify around a shared kingdom outcome?
I have something to say about that. Jesus prayed in John 17 that the church would be one, unified. Why? Because it reflects his relationship with his Father, the unity that's in Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That is the foundation of our existence. And when the church is one and not divided, we're in such a divided culture right now. The church is yelling at itself. It's so sad. But he said there's something at stake with that. He said, when you're not one, the world can't see the Father. But when you are one, when you're unified, when you're together, the world gets to see. That's what's at stake. If we can't get along and actually unite, the world doesn't get reached. The kingdom doesn't advance. There's a lot at stake there. So I just don't think that there's any room for any of us to be exclusive and not partner. And that's, in the Four Collins Church Network, we really elevate that. We believe in Revelation 2 and 3, Jesus has his letters to the churches. And you'll notice it's not to the churches in Laodicea, the churches in Ephesus. Is to the church. Each city gets its own one single lampstand. So I think in Fort Collins, there's just one church. In Loveland, there's just one church. We're going to get there, and Jesus is going to judge us all based on what that light did in that city. And so with Serve 6-8, which I really appreciate, Mike, everything that you've done there, we were racking our brains back in the day before Serve 6-8 existed, when people would come in our doors with needs, and we didn't know how to meet those needs. And then it occurred to us at one point that maybe these people are making the rounds from church to church to church and taking advantage of people. We thought about starting a database, like a list, to send out to all the churches, and then suddenly Mike had this idea. And so we got in on day one, basically. And we've been in ever since. Some of you is one of your resource centers. And what Serve 6-8 is doing is not pulling people into its own organizational center. And that's one of the main things I love about it. Your heart is for the local church. And so you take all of those people and you push them into each of the local churches for us to then engage with and clean up a mess.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off that just a little bit. I know I don't live here. I'd love to come to Serve 6-8. That sounds great. When I think about what y'all are talking about, it's really partnership and collaboration. Yeah. And what that's going to equate to is time. That takes a lot of time. I have a lot of phone calls with people who go, hey, do you want to partner together? Mm-hmm. Sure. And what am I going to say no to in order to be able to do that? Yeah. And so if we're answering the question, well, what could happen? Well, anything. I mean, anything could happen. God can use all of us, and the impact could be exponential. But my mind went a little bit different, Nikki, of saying, but how are we baking that into our day-to-day? I mean, if we have a need in business, what do? We go hire somebody. Hopefully we're getting clarity first, but we're hiring somebody and bringing them in to focus on that certain area. And so I'd say if there's this collaboration effect that we can have in partners, we're going to have to bake in the time and maybe even bring on departments or different focuses in order to do that. Because if you slow down, you're going to be able to speed up. Sometimes you have to slow down to speed up as well. That's good.
And if you don't mind, Nick, I just want to wrap up my part with this. Yesterday, we had the privilege of hosting an event at Serve 6-8, brought in some national partners. And what you guys may not realize is we're part of something, speaking of collaboration and partnership, we're part of something much larger than what's happening just here in Northern Colorado. We brought some folks in yesterday, and we got to hear how this region is a part of something significant. So in the national scene in the last 5 years, 110 national disasters that were $1 billion loss or more. In those 110 disasters, 75 to 80% of the work is being done by the church. And we are linked here to those people who were standing with us yesterday, casting vision of how this movement here is going to help support all those needs, not only here but across the country. So we are part of something that's reaching millions of people every year. And the impact that creates. Listen, when government gets involved, they're fantastic at making $1 into 5 cents. Right? But when we get involved, Serve 6-8, small little organization, but that we took $1.4 million in cash and turned it into $7.2 million of impact last year for the community. This group turns $1 into $6, and it's happening across the country, and we're part of something much larger than just here.
That's awesome.
My mom passed away 2 years ago, almost to the date, and I said at her funeral, I said she could turn $1 into 20. Growing up in that era, and I do agree with Mike that Serve 6-8 is wonderful at that. Mine's a little more granular. For me, you're talking about being united, and I think being united, I always heard it that, well, everybody just always has to agree with everything. And that's not the way it is. Our greatest growth has come in times of challenge and challenging one another, but doing it in a respectful way. That's why it's so important to have words that matter to you, that like ours are faith and trust and integrity and grace, where you can have those conversations with people where it doesn't necessarily mean that you all have to agree on everything, but you can at least talk about it and get it out on the table frame it up for what is our problem, and that just builds that high-performing team. And so when you have that, it doesn't mean, now don't get me wrong, that's where it gets tough, is there could also be some people that, maybe aren't the right people to have on the bus, and that's when it gets tough. But you have to make those tough decisions. But if you have those words that guide you, that you can sit down with people and have those conversations, I think that's just key, because that's when you grow, is when you have conversations. And unfortunately, we've gotten away from that in a lot of areas where we just can't have civil conversations about things.
Yeah. The power of conversation and connection. Absolutely. Dan, did you want to say, anybody else want to say anything else? Well, fantastic. Hey, you guys, can we give our panel just one more huge round of applause? Thank you, guys.